Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress reporting on round 9, the final round of the 2018 Sinquefield Cup. And what a dramatic last round it was. These were the pairings of round 9 and we saw 3 draws. So and Caruana made a very quick draw. Anand and Mamedyarov played a very long draw, and the longest game of the round was Karyakin against Vachier-Lagrave. That game also ended in a draw. That leaves Aronian, Grishuk and Carlsen Nakamura, and they were very important for the final standings, because Caruana had drawn quite quickly. 4 players could catch up with him: Aronian, Grishuk, Mamedyarov and Carlsen. Mamedyarov did not manage to beat Anand. Let's see what happened in the other 2 games. Let's first start with Aronian against Grishuk. It is the 27th of August 2018 and this is the position after the 17th move, Queen D8 to D5 from Grishuk. Only 17 moves played, 23 moves to go till the time control. 36 minutes on the clock for Aronian and only 15 for Grishuk. The position is equal, but now Aronian goes all out for it. A draw will not do him any good. He has to win to have a chance to win the 2018 Sinquefield Cup. And look at this move. He sacrifices a rook on f7. Grishuk thought for a while and then took it. And rook f1 check. The other rook comes to the f-file. Now it's important to see that going back with the king is not good, because then white has bishop takes e4. And now the best move is queen h5. But if you take that bishop, that's a blunder, because of queen takes e4, and you cannot take back because of a back rank checkmate. This bishop is protecting the rook. So after rook f1 check, you cannot go back to g8, and Grishuk decided on bishop f5, interposing his bishop and allowing this rook to come into the game. g4 from Aronian, pinning the bishop, and g6. Queen c1, very nice move, with the threat of queen h6 to cause havoc against black's king. Rook e6 is the strongest move here. If you then play queen h6, there is king g8, g takes f5, g takes f5, and then black is hitting white's queen, and he gets counterplay with the move rook g6 against white's king. But Grishuk did not find rook e6. In this position he played king g7 to keep the queen out of h6. Aronian took some material back. You have to take the bishop now, it's no longer pinned. G takes, and he decided to get rid of that strong knight on e4. Bishop takes, f takes. This is move 23. 27 minutes left for Aronian and only 6 for Grishuk. Queen f4 was Aronian's move, and please note that the f8 square is still not available for black to put the rook on because of the bishop on a3. h6, good move from Grishuk. Please note that rook e6 here would not have been good because of queen f7 check. The queen is no longer covering the f7 square. h6 was a good move. Queen c7 check, king h8. It turns out that king g6 is the best move according to the engine, but not a human move, and especially not in raging time trouble. After king h8, Grishuk only had 3 minutes left on the clock and he still had 15 more moves to make till the time control. Now Aronian brings his bishop into the game, bishop d6. Grishuk gave a check, king f2 and rook g6, and now Grishuk only had 1 minute left on the clock. Bishop e5 check, this bishop is a monster on that square. King g8 and king e3. White's king is very safe on e3, while black's king is under constant threat from the white pieces. Even though black has material up, this is a very good position for white. And with the time on the clock, that makes black's task even more difficult. And unfortunately for Grishuk, he succumbs under the pressure straight away. It's very difficult to play. Rook e8 turns out to be the right move, but Grishuk went to d8, and one square makes a huge difference, because now Aronian found the very strong move Queen e7, which is really freezing black's pieces. Just to give a few examples, you cannot go to d7 with the queen to challenge white's queen, because then there is rook f8 check. Very nice move. Rook takes f8 is the only move, and then you lose your queen on d7. Let's look at something else. What about rook d7? Is that possible? No, it is not. Now rook f8 is actually checkmate on the spot. And if you play your other rook, for example rook g5, then there is rook f6, and this rook will create havoc in black's position. All sorts of checkmate threats are appearing. So what to do for black? He is lost, and he had no time. Grishuk played b5. It's really just a waiting move to see what happens. And now Aronian finds the lovely move h4, turning the screws. Please note that the bishop, this beautiful bishop on e5, does not only have an attacking role, but also nicely protects the g3 square to stop any rook g3 check counterplay options from black. Another waiting move from Grishuk. He saw nothing better, and h5. Now you have to play the rook, rook g5, and rook f6 infiltrates in black's position, threatening rook takes h6. Rook takes e5, taking that monster bishop off the board was Grishuk's choice, allowing mate in 2. Rook g6 check. Grishuk was visibly shocked by that move and resigned straight away. Black only has one move, and then it is checkmate. What a game from Aronian, sacrificing the rook and then, in black's time trouble, winning the game. The moment of resignation, Alexander Grishuk congratulates his opponent Levon Aronian. Aronian said after the game, "Now it's easy to call myself a hero. A draw was okay for me, but then I got too excited. I saw I had some compensation for the rook. It was a practical decision as Grishuk was low on time. I was very lucky. Grishuk blundered with rook d8." And he quotes the Danish grandmaster Bent Larsen, who said, "When you take risks, you will lose. You will win, but you will only remember the wins." That's a nice attitude to have. And Aronian finished his interview by saying, "When you get lucky, you get hungry for more." And he was referring to a possible tiebreak, because he had now joined Fabiano Caruana at the top of the ranking. So Aronian had won, and now we had two leaders at the top. But we still had Magnus Carlsen playing against Hikaru Nakamura, and if Carlsen would win, he would join Aronian and Caruana in a three-way tie of the lead. This is the position after the 62nd move g7 g5 from Hikaru Nakamura. We have a rook endgame, and Carlsen is grinding away like only he can. White is slightly better, but black has a fortress. How to make progress here? Well, g5 was already a concession, because now Carlsen gets a protected pass pawn on h5. And it was criticized in the live broadcast, that move g5 from Nakamura. Why allow a protected pass pawn? Why not just stay put and see how white will try and make progress? King g7, king f2, rook b7, rook a3, king h6, king e3, and look at this move. On the 66th move, Nakamura loses his patience. He plays a5, giving up the a pawn to send the white king back to g3 and claiming he has a fortress. Carlsen took the pawn, rook b3 check, king f2, rook b2 check. The king has to hide behind the pawn again, and king g7. 69 moves played, and let's now see how Carlsen slowly but surely outplays his opponents and brings his king from g3 to g6, accompanied by some gentle background music. We have played 96 moves. Black is a pawn up but is totally lost. He played rook a4. Carlsen played rook h7 check. Nakamura thought for a while, shook his head and finally resigned. King g8 is his only move. Then rook e7 can be played. You have to protect against this checkmate threat of rook e8. So you have to play rook a8. Then king takes f6. And there is no checkmate, but white will win black's remaining pawns and will have an easily winning endgame with the g and h pawn. Another wonderful grinding win from Magnus Carlsen, like he has shown us so many times before. The moment of the handshake, a dejected Nakamura and a delighted world champion Magnus Carlsen, who said after the game, "I had to keep pushing, only a win mattered. Nakamura has so many defensive plans, he started to see some dangers, and eventually you start to panic. After g5 h5 he already found it very unpleasant, and giving away the pawn with a5 was not necessary, but it was a practical decision for him. He was not going to wait for me to gradually sneak up on his a-pawn with my king. He must have underestimated my plan, bringing my king to b8, which worked out very well for white." Carlsen won, and that led to this final standings. Caruana, Aronian and Carlsen 5.5 out of 9 games. Mamedyarov half a point behind and 3 players on 50%. Grishuk, Vachier-Lagrave and Anand. Wesley So on 4 points. Nakamura and Karyakin on -3. So what to do now? What about the tie breaks? Well, 3 players tied on 5.5 out of 9. Tiebreak number 1, no one has lost against each other. Tiebreak number 2, yes, they also had the same number of decisive games. They both won 2 games and made 7 draws. And tiebreak number 3 was about the colors. All players had won 2 games with white, nobody had won with black. And that meant that tiebreak number 4 came into operation. There was only going to be a tiebreak between 2 players, and these 2 would be determined by the drawing of lots. A very unsatisfying way to determine the top 2, but it has happened before, even in candidates matches a long time ago, in a match between Vasily Smyslov and Robert Hübner. The playoffs would be 2 rapid game matches of 10 minutes plus a 5-second delay, and if after those 2 games the score will be equal, there would be an Armageddon game. But the players protested. They did not want a drawing of lots to determine which 2 players would play the tiebreak. And it was decided to have 3 co-champions, Fabiano Caruana, Levon Aronian and Magnus Carlsen, win the 2018 Sinquefield Cup together. What about the Grand Chess Tour? The top 4 will qualify for the Grand Chess Tour finals in London in December. Hikaru Nakamura, despite having a bad Sinquefield Cup, qualified in first place. Levon Aronian will also be there, and that's why he said in his interview that a draw would have been enough. What he meant was that he would qualify for the London finals. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave also qualified, but number 4 is still up for grabs. Fabiano Caruana and Wesley So are tied at 26 Grand Chess Tour points, and they will play a playoff. Not for the Sinquefield Cup, but for the Grand Chess Tour. And that is a playoff we will see played on Tuesday, the 28th of August. Hope you enjoyed the coverage of the Sinquefield Cup on Chess to Impress. Let me draw your attention to a Carlsen Caruana countdown series I'm doing, counting down to the great match in November by looking at all the other 46 previous World Championship events. The link to the playlist is here, and every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday I will add a new video building up to the Carlsen Caruana match. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like this video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.